Hogs of War and the way it's put together is complicated to say the least. So for some background information, in the PC version of the game on Steam, all of the game's files are accessible by simply heading to the game's directory. The two files we have to deal with here if we want to mod the team textures are MTD files and TIM files. To put it simply, MTD files house the TIM files, which if you have software like Photoshop, you can view and ultimately edit the team textures. Once all of your textures have been edited, the files can easily be repackaged. The PlayStation version, on the other hand, has a three-stage process where we go from MAM files to MTD files and finally to TIM files once again. But the issue that you face from going from a MAM file to MTD and back again is it requires the MAM files to be unmangled and remangled once the textures have been modded to go from MTD back to MAM. But what is the process of unmangling and mangling, you may ask? Well, back in the day, Gremlins created their own in-house compression algorithm, which was used during the packaging of Hogs of War for the PlayStation 1. The process of mangling and unmangling uses this algorithm, which in its complexity acts as a level of encryption, thus stopping our process of actually modding. I found this out the hard way last year when I spent quite a fair bit of time modding textures, and with the knowledge that I have learned from other people, I managed to mangle the textures and repackage the whole game. Well, after loading up the game, I found that the textures that I had edited remained unchanged, and at the time that really sucked because it just took me forever. In order for modding to be entirely possible on the PlayStation version, the compression algorithm would have to be reverse engineered in some way, but because of its complexity, it would require a fair amount of time and indeed knowledge, which at my level I just don't possess. However, as I'm sure you've guessed from, well, this video, a new method has come to light that allows us to have some form of texture modding. I'm using a software that I've mentioned previously when editing map data. It is of course the Cheat Engine. The textures we're going to be changing are for the purple team specifically. Currently this is the only team that I know how to change or has seen how to change. So you want to start by loading up your emulator, loading up a game with the purple team in it if you're either controlling them or fighting against them. Either way it's fine, but you want to load up Cheat Engine and just ignore if the game goes all funky on the HUD. So you want to open up the emulator itself, and then there's going to be a link in the description to download this notepad file that houses these byte values. Now the initial issue I was having was how exactly do I find these values, because the top ones are for the current purple team and we're going to be replacing them with these bottom ones which are for the black team, which you'll see the uniform they wear, they're all just sort of black textures. They're pretty cool, as I'm sure you've probably seen already from the thumbnail. So what you want to do is go to the value type and change that to array of bytes, and then we want to take the first top layer, copy that, and then we paste it into here, hit first scan, and you'll have two addresses come up. Now then what you want to do is copy this first line, which like I said is for the black team, and we're going to replace that. So you want to go over to the address bar here, right click it and change value of selected address, and you just want to paste what we've just copied into there. And again, do it for the same one underneath that, paste the same thing, press OK, and then we move on to the next line. So we're basically searching for these values, which are the RGB values for the purple team's textures. So paste that line in there, again do a new scan, and it'll bring up 1 this time, and we go down to the second line, we copy, oopsie daisy, we copy that second line, we right click on that, change the value, paste it in there, and it's just the same old process. We go on to the third line, copy that, search for it, paste it into there, new scan, same with the address again, copy the third line, oopsie daisy, copy the third line, change the address type in there, and then finally the fourth line, last but not least. It's a very quick process, surprisingly so, but because I don't really use Cheat Engine besides swapping out maps and stuff. It was just trying to find out that process. So once we've changed this value, once you've pressed OK, you'll then minimize cheat engine, minimize that if it's in the way. I'm just going to go into full screen mode and back again just so you can see things properly. And if we go into game, we will have black textures. Now these are pretty cool. You can of course use them in multiplayer or single player, but do bear in mind that sometimes the emulator may crash. There may also be times when the textures you change don't even yield the results that you're expecting, because in this instance I changed the purple team's textures to the black team and I got a white paratrooper. How that works, I have absolutely no idea, so further testing is definitely needed. The thing is though, is that the game itself already has a method against you adding these textures, which is that if you were on the roster screen and you were trying to add these textures in, if you were to change them with the cheat engine and then go into game, your textures would still be purple because the game reloads the original textures over what you've just done. So you have to do it when you're in game, because if you finish the game, go back to whatever menu, you'll be back to the purple textures. So unfortunately you do have to change the textures every single time you go into game, which is a pain in the butt, and it's a major drawback again of modding in general. But the fact that we're now able to edit textures in some way, or at least change them, now it's a case of trying to figure out what the other RGB values are for the other teams, and also figuring out what the RGB values equate to in terms of the textures that they're changing. Once we figure that out, we can try and do something else with modding and change all the other teams' textures and stuff. But yeah, have a play around with it. If you've got any questions, let me know. I need to give a few shout outs to people, including FlyDB, who originally posted this. He posted gameplay of well, Hogs and War stuff he's been doing, but also these textures, and that's kind of how I found out about this and looked into it. I need to thank Daxter Soul for helping me figure out stuff with the cheat engine, and I also have to thank Appio for giving me some information on mangling and stuff, because I just needed some clarification on it. But like I said, let me know your questions and thoughts and everything on these textures in the comments, and if you've got any problems as well, let me know in the Discord. And in the meantime, guys, that's going to wrap everything up. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me know everything, and I will see you guys later in the next video.